Welcome, Perry Reeves.
Because of the pandemic and my 82-year-old mom was living with us, I was a little conservative. But I did, and I was very excited about coming in. And you kept running into my husband, which, you know. And the funny thing is, this last time when I texted you, he had seen you, but he didn't even tell me. So this was on my own accord.
Yeah, I was starting to feel,
Well, Doug says I ran into her husband at pickleball. I said, well, what did he say? Did he, Doug's like, I didn't want to ask him.
No, we brought the phone over. I'm like, call him right now. I mean, he
we've
brought
spoken,
over. Yeah, we have. We've texted a lot. We had some fun stuff in December. I mean, that we could never repeat, but it was fun.
Yeah.
So we've got this completes the circle, right?
Well, Grenier is still lacking.
Grenier is refusing. Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. That's it. But I mean, I feel like he's been out from the beginning, so it's not really a scheduling thing for him.
No, he hates somebody involved with this show. I'm fine if it's me.
It ain't me.
I no longer care.
I don't think it's me. But it could be, It could
What
be.
did you do
sorry.
to
What
him?
did I do? Yeah. Or what didn't I do?
Right, exactly.
Well, Perry, I just want to start at the beginning because there's lots of questions that people asked on the page that you were coming on. They're excited. And just to clear it all up, Perry was based on my ex-wife. That was the plan. And
Melissa,
and her name was always Melissa, but it became this kind of running joke on the show that you didn't have a name. But now...
Nor did Turtle,
by the way. You know what? Thank you for that, because there's been this kind of weird thing. I've read these articles that Entourage was so male-centric, they didn't even give Mrs. Ari
Doug goes deep down the rabbit hole.
But did you? And it's you. It was E. It was. I think Ari was bragging about getting whatever action, and you were kind of creeped out by it. And you're
In the pilot.
He's like, guess who I was with? He's like, Mrs. Ari. Like he didn't know my name, and it was just creepy and super funny to me. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, it's true. When did? Because I know things changed in the pilot. He's banging a supermodel and cheating on his wife,
true?
and then Ari becomes this family man.
He says that in the pilot. Ask me who I'm banging, and Connolly says
me-
Mrs. Ari.
Right.
He says, ask me who I'm fucking. I said, Mrs. Ari? No, that's funny. Swimsuit, whatever it was, some swimsuit model. But at what point did he evolve from that guy into the family guy?
I mean, it happened quickly. First of all,
by the time we were shooting the show.
by the time, Perry comes in episode 4, date night, and when Perry came in, which again, I want to talk to you about behind the scenes, because let me just explain to the audience. Perry's on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I believe, correct?
That's right, yeah.
Yes.
So Jeremy recommends, he goes, I have the perfect woman for this. I see a picture. I watch her work. I love her. She also reminds me of Melissa a little bit, which is what I'm looking for. So I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. But you're not technically available.
Correct.
And the night that we are shooting in front of the ArcLight Cinema, I believe, with Piven yelling at you, which also people don't like anymore. You're not allowed to yell at the wife anymore. But yucca, they can't stand it, yucca. But we don't even know if you're coming, and we have a second actor. And I'm honestly...
That's crazy.
The show's being ruined, though, because even though I don't know Perry, I don't know how they're going to work together. I'm already obsessed with you playing this role, but we don't know if you're coming. So do you remember that night at all?
It was crazy because Doug Lyman has this protective crew around him that kind of keeps you as an actor, even though you're in every single day and working with them every single day, from really getting any questions in, or that has nothing to do with.
And
what
this is
you're
Doug
doing.
Lyman, who directed Mr. and Mrs.
Right.
Smith.
So they kept saying, they knew that I had this. I really wanted to do it. We had a car lined up to get me as quickly as possible. And they were like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I somehow infiltrated the closed off area. And I was like, Doug, this is this thing. I really want to do it. I know that I'm supposed to be getting out of the car. I don't even have any dialogue. Could it be that I'm the driver of the van? And he just, in his own, very interesting way, visualized it. I could see him looking. He's like, yes. So I went and I ran to the first AD, who was really wanted. I almost wanted to quit acting because of these people, but. They said, okay, all right. So I did. I literally got in the car, full hair and makeup from that job, got in, got out. They threw me in some clothes and drove me to the set. I mean, I don't even think, I remember seeing Jeremy came in my trailer and I'm like, Jeremy, you're going to win an Emmy. This is so perfect for you. Because I'd known Jeremy for a long time.
Well, you guys did Old School.
We did Old School, and he was friends with other friends of mine, and we shared a trailer on Old School. Like he worked on days that I didn't work. So, we always wanted to work together. And there you go. So I just walked right in, and with pretty much the scene that we improv'd for an audition.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
So
it was really good.
in one day, you were on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith and the Entourage pilot.
Yes.
That's a
and,
great
and
little
here's the
tidbit.
crazy thing. Everyone said Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Oh my God, this is your big break. I'd already done Old School. I'd already done some other things and some shows, a big show with Rob Lowe. But, everyone says everything's going to be the thing. But the one thing that everyone said was not going to be the thing was Entourage. They're like, don't do that. That's not, it's about the business. Those shows never go. And,
They weren't wrong about that.
Well,
Until that point.
But for me, I was like, this looks really cool. I don't care what you guys are advising me. I want to do it. It'll be fun. And to be honest, I was kind of thinking, I'm not into this anymore. Mr. and Mrs. Smith was like, we owed 40 pages when we wrapped. You'll see this crazy credit I have, and none of the girls we all ended up on the cutting room floor, which was fine. It was all just as it was supposed to be. But I think about Doug, and like Doug Lyman. Yes, Doug Lyman. I have a thing for Dougs. Doug Lyman, helped me to then have this great next 8 years. So anyway, and so did
awesome.
you. Because HBO was very hesitant to give me any money, and I'm like, I got to go do another job, and I was getting ready to. They were, signing this thing for another pilot, and you called me. I think you'd been drinking, and you're like, please, I can't. They want me to replace you like it's a soap opera. This is not a soap opera. This is not One Life to Live. We can't just say, and the part of Mrs. Ari will now be played by Jane Doe. The crazy thing is like one of the other girls. I think it just mattered who was your representation and who had the power to say she's leaving the set. And my people were like, oh no, you be a good girl, don't leave the set. Right. I mean, we were really far away too, and that was a crazy job.
But you got to understand, there's another actress on our set.
Only on Entourage would you have. I mean, I guess you had to, right? So you thought, all right, I feel good about the chances of Perry coming. In the event she doesn't.
No. That's not how it worked at all. And by the way, I have no idea who the other actor is, and she might have won an Oscar by now. I have no idea. I am crazy, and I had become obsessed, even though I don't know Perry. I had this little
because you couldn't have me, maybe. That's always
a
thing.
I was right, because I knew what the chemistry between the two of you was going to be. So I was obsessed with it. So while I'm shooting episode 4 and trying to make that work, I'm like, no, you need to make this happen. And I'm probably driving some people behind the scenes crazy, but they're like, there's nothing we could do. She's either going to come or she's not. So
that was stressful. And like, again, I mean, you think about your life and like things that happen in your life that can change the course, like meeting your partner who you have a child with, like, and you could have missed out on that. Like, it's just nuts. That's what this job was for me. But the weirdest part for me in auditioning or whatever, I had come in for Entourage to play Ari's assistant, which ended up being the girl from the OC,
Samara,
right? Who, yes, of course, your love interest, one of your early love interests. And I walked in, and at that time I was probably playing like 20. I mean, what was I in Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Like we were in like 25, 26. So I walk in, and it's like girls that were 20 years old, and I'm thinking, well, don't let this bother you. Just go in and be what you would be if you were that guy's assistant. And I auditioned like, yeah, you want me to get you coffee? Like I had an attitude that like a grown adult would have with an asshole like that. And I remember Meredith apparently wrote down next to my name. Yeah, wrote down next to my name, if Ari ever had a wife. Because I was, instead of being like, oh, Mr. Gold, what can I get you? I was like, yeah, what do you want, Mr. Gold? I just don't think they expected that. And I was never going to get it being the nice person. So there you go.
Well, I love that. And I love that chemistry that you have. And that's why, just speaking to the fact, how did you feel about your character? Did it ever bother you that you didn't have a name? Was that something that you thought about? Because I never thought about it.
Here's the thing, and this is how I looked at it. Ari's character, when you started, and the pilot, I mean, he kind of blew up from the pilot. Like the character wasn't necessarily, the plan was not to have the trajectory the way it turned out. You didn't have him. He didn't have a family. You didn't know. But
that one scene at Coy was his coming out party, for lack of a better.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And what his character ended up really being the richest, fullest character on the show because he had a family.
Right.
Like you got to see him be human. If he was just an agent, the agent that we all that we all hear about, you don't know their personal life. You don't see them being loving. You don't see them with their children. You just know they're assholes. So this made him like a full character. And all the awards that he won, I mean, he really did get to play this insanely developed, full human, and I felt like the wife character was a huge part of that. And I found this piece of paper when I was doing one of my like COVID purges of cleaning out yet another closet. And on that piece of paper, I guess I'd gone and seen some like, therapist type person who's like, write everything down that you want in your life. Okay, this is what I wrote down.
Vision board.
It was a vision board, but pre-vision board. But yeah, it was, I want to have a yoga retreat center somewhere, internationally exotic and half the time, and then be on a television show, comedy, well written, playing the wife of someone amazing.
Wow.
I mean, and I wanted to do some gardening in the backyard. So then maybe that didn't work out so well. But the other two things are literally what I wanted. So when people said, oh, you're playing the wife, I'm like, I wanted to, because I did. I moved to Costa Rica. I have a whole other life there. I wanted to be able to work with someone amazing and make it easier for me. And I know that sounds crazy. A lot of people want to make it as difficult as possible. But with Jeremy, who I knew, and this is exactly what I wanted.
But the Mrs. Ari thing really came from the way I grew up. Like, no one in my neighborhood called the parents like now. Hey, Jeff.
No way.
No
kidding?
way.
Yeah,
so that
big no in my neighborhood.
So that really came from.
I still can't do it.
Yeah.
If I talk to somebody, I'm like, hey.
By the way, the real Melissa, her parents used to laugh at me because I was married to her for 20 years, and I stopped calling them anything because they would be like, call us Don and Anita. And I'm like, I don't like
Mr.
it.
Hecht,
yeah,
please,
I mean, they hated it.
Right.
But it really was Connolly E's character.
Being
when
polite.
When he was saying Mrs. Ari, he was going like, I'm not really in a space to go, hey, how's Melissa doing tonight? So, but that
and it
being
wasn't
said,
you were trying to be polite. I mean, it was, you weren't being you
Like,
weren't,
I don't know.
you
I'm
weren't-
assuming your wife. I hope it's your wife, right?
And by the way, I always thought, because people would ask me, wait, but he was a cheater at the beginning. I'm like, no, he was a liar.
Yes.
Like, he wasn't a cheater. He just wanted
Interesting.
to seem cool to the young guy, the young hungry guy. He didn't want to be left out as because come on, I don't even think he really ever was a cheater from what I gathered.
that was the thing. He was actually the opposite. He was the polar opposite. I just always wondered where that switch, if there was a moment where that switch happened.
That pilot line, which obviously was written before we have any idea what the
Who
show's
these
going to
people
be. Like, I don't think there's anything even close to that the rest of the show. We know, and that's why I think your character is so integral to the show. We know who runs this house. I mean, he's scared to death of her, and she, while he talks a big game, which again, in 2021, you can't really raise your voice in the middle of the street like he's going, it's a cab stand at Yucca. He'd be in fucking jail. But I mean, it was not meant to be that. It was meant to be like, my wife runs my house.
Right.
I love it, but I try to be cool. That's
Well, he had a temper tantrum, and she didn't even flinch.
Right.
It was like, yeah, give me the keys. Which I think a lot of people would have yelled back. And I never yelled at Ari. I was like, Ari, you're so cute. Like, I never really... And I feel like in real life, I had to come in and meet these guys. It was like you and Lev, and I don't know, there must have been 6 of you all in there.
Weiss.
And I came in, and it wasn't, that's right, Rob Weiss. It wasn't to read. You'd already seen stuff. It was just, I think he just wanted to meet me and make sure that I was not, that I would fit in with a group and that you could work with me. So I came in, and it's like me in a chair, not reading, with these 6 guys, and I was like, "Is this American
And
Idol?"
they're not really,
like
and
seriously,
they're not friendly faces. They're really not.
Terry, tell him I'm a friendly.
Very friendly, and actually, everyone is very friendly.
There's a lot going on.
And well, I mean, it's just a weird thing. You don't know people, and it's awkward for everyone, quite frankly. So Lev came over and sat next to me, and I just said, "Look, I know you just want to know, am I the person to work with Jeremy?" And I said, "I've known Jeremy for a while, and I know all sides of Jeremy." And then I started telling you some of those sides nicely. I mean, these are not like, secrets or whatever, but just the sides of Jeremy and his family, and like the yoga connection we have. And I think you guys were like, oh my God, yes, she knows him.
Right.
So, and we like each other, and we can talk as fast as each other. And it was just I think it just put you at ease.
Well, that's why I say it was such a perfect combination. And again, for this show, which is why I want to ask you a question, Nick Meyer, who's wants to know, what was it like to come on this obviously bros-centric show? I mean, that's, at the end of the day, the show was set up to be the 5 guys are the stars, and here come these great women, yourself, Emmanuel, Carla, Constance, etc. So what was it like when you're coming
But you were
on
the
to that?
first.
But here's the funny thing. I mean, I know it was a show about all these people, but we used to laugh. Kevin and I used to laugh about, when are we ever going to do a scene together? And we did. We had that one.
Perry, we just covered the episode.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we just covered the episode, and we were watching it, and I was thinking, because
Wasn't
Perry
wearing a
and I-
tennis outfit? Like I think it
Perry
was
was
like one
wearing-
exchange.
Perry's wearing a tennis outfit, and it's when it's the exactly, Doug. Remember we talked about he's doing the Henry Hill thing where he's paranoid at the house, and Perry and I, we'd been in scenes together, but you and I had never
Spoken.
spoken or been shared a shot.
That's true.
And all it is I'm walking by, and Perry and I are like, well, it's maybe we were trying to and then we were like, well, what are we gonna do? It's really not. I don't know. We were
hi.
trying to
Yeah.
create some kind of a moment, and we walked by. I was like, how you doing?
Because I really did only work with Jeremy. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't part of the rest. So when people ask me the same thing, I'm like, I wouldn't know. From my perspective, it was a show about Ari and me, and that
And
was
Rex.
it. Me
And
and Ari,
Rex.
and I had some scenes with Rex, but I mean, or maybe the kids sometimes.
And see, what's so strange about that is I feel like all of us are such friends
Yeah.
that it doesn't feel like that to me. When you say you never did a scene together, it kind of like because we had so
were
much interactions
in
outside.
one
But we
shot.
effortlessly would talk to each other about
Together.
it.
Yeah.
Like, when are we going to do a scene
Well, like, maybe
together?
one
'Cause,
day,
like,
we'll see, right?
We laughed because how?
Well, you were in the
I
bar
mean-
mitzvah scene.
No,
That's
we
shot
were
right.
in the
together.
scene together, but in this particular
We actually
episode, we're in
had
the,
words.
We're in a shot, and we improv the, hey, how you doing? It was an awkward thing.
So is there that awkward moment you're like, I wonder if Doug's going to write like these two have an affair? At
No,
some
well,
point.
we joked right about that. We're like, we should make it like flirty. Like, that probably won't go well. But the thing, I guess my question for you is, and we had Rex on, and we talked about this, and one of the things that's been great about going back, you talk to some of these people that we worked with for all these years, and you learn things that, I don't know, you didn't know. And as it turns out, Rex is a serious actor. And by that, I mean, he does. He takes the work seriously. And we asked him, like, hey, were you offended by this or that? Or when you read something in the script? And to him, it was very black and white. If it's in character and it's part of the story
show.
and it's part of the show and it's funny, I don't care. It's not me. And it was just interesting.
Right.
I wouldn't have thought that would have been his take on it. It was an acting choice that kept him not offended. What was your feeling when the things start? We can't even say the word. He calls me the sea muscle.
Oh my God, I had to say that word. Yeah, I'm
Right.
convinced that's why Hallmark's never going to hire me. I mean, seriously, how many
I
people
ruined
get to
another
say
person.
that? Yeah, right. That career's sailed.
What does he call me? He calls me. Oh, we can't.
I'm not going to say
I'm
it. Perry
on the
can
phone.
say
I'm
it. I'm not
lying
going to say it.
in bed. Ari's on the phone,
Yelling at me.
and I'm wearing an orange, gorgeous nightgown because the wives
Can we also talk about that
after
for 1
20
second,
years
though?
wear hot lingerie.
Can we just throw that for 1 second?
Yeah.
You were involved with your own wardrobe a
Oh my
lot.
God, so involved.
Because people think I'm like, oh, Doug, why were you sticking her in all that lingerie?
I was totally into it. And one of the things I said is, I remember the first time we were doing a scene, it felt really static. Like Jeremy was talking, and I was talking. I'm like, can I just be changing like the way real people do in their bedroom? They're getting ready to go out.
Business.
Like I literally did the whole thing while taking my pants off and putting another pair of pants on and putting a necklace on. Never looked at him, which I feel like they were together for a long time, and like it always felt real. So I think we did a couple of those scenes. There's not a lot of time. Like you're getting ready to go out to dinner with your husband and he's late. And I had no problem with that.
I love that. And when you get a word like that, you're going to say it if you're going to say it. Everybody knows
the
what we're
cunt
talking
muscle. That was the word. The cunt
Jeremy,
muscle.
Ari calls me a cunt muscle, and the button
you
on the
think-
scene,
you
they think the scene's over, and then we cut to Perry, who goes, cunt muscle.
Yeah, you
really?
think I'm sleeping, and I'm like, dude, you're never really. But I always think that she loved him so much, and her sort of strict boundaries came from not having him spin off the planet. He needed her to sort of reel him in. And people always say, you're so hard on him. I'm like, no, she just loves him a whole lot.
I don't see that at all.
But I get that a lot. A lot
I
of men
see
are like
you-
freaked out.
Yeah, the men are freaked out. But for women, which I think hopefully
Women
they
loved
see
it.
I saw you as the strong woman. And just an aside real quick. I asked fans to give in questions. And one jerk off was like, can you ask her if she'll do the interview in her underwear? And I said, in 1975, that would have been inappropriate. In 2021, it's ridiculous. And this guy, and the reason I'm bringing this up is so we can go into this discussion. This guy wrote, maybe you should judge your own content rather than mine or something like that. So because you're so dumb, whoever that guy was, the difference is one are characters in a show and one is Perry Reeves here as a human being and as herself. So that being said,
That guy was probably 14 years old. I mean,
might
what
have
an
been. So I
idiotic.
should have yelled
It's
at
just
him?
an idiotic
he's
question.
still going, by the way. It's still going. But anyway, Perry, did any of the things, because I don't know that we ever had this discussion. Was anything in there that you felt, I'm not going to say this, this is disgusting.
Or offended by something being said? Did you ever have any?
No, I mean, I literally never did. And I when it came to us, remember the episode where I end up going back on the soap opera?
Yeah.
And
That was awesome.
and I'm so excited, and I'm literally, the reason I said to the wardrobe people, let's have me changing, because I feel so happy and I'm putting on something amazing. And we did have like a nice bra and underwear. It wasn't like crazy, like it wasn't bondagey looking stuff. It was like cute, floral, whatever. But I looked really good, so that when he said, you haven't aged very well for high def, it was so in your face that was not true.
Right.
It wasn't just, and I don't think, I mean, honestly, I'd never done anything like that on any job I'd ever done. So I think people were kind of surprised. I mean, not that I don't look fine, but they were like, oh my goodness. Like, I didn't realize that that's what she looked like. Right. But it made it funnier. To me, if you can make something funnier, it just set it up so that it was funny and he just looked pathetic. I mean, which, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, I think that, as you said, you rounded out this character, but also stood, in my opinion, very clearly on your own. And again, this show was about 5 guys, but me, since Ari and Melissa Gold were so much related to my life, and my son was their son, the therapy scenes, which everybody loves, which honestly were like verbatim taken from my own life. And now when I watch it with my current girlfriend. She's like, that's so like you. And I'm like a little embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. But those scenes, people want to know, what was it like for you doing those scenes where obviously Jeremy's got long dialogue and you have to be on your game and be able to, in less lines, let's say, make your imprint, which I feel you did 1,000,000%. But
well, that's really sweet. It was fun to react. And I mean, I know people talk about acting and as reacting, but truly Jeremy is just, he's kind of riveting, right? When he was playing Ari, and it was just so easy. And also, my objective was never to just sort of like spin him out to go, see what I'm saying, to the therapist every time. So it was always fun. It was always really fun. And again, I got to wear great outfits. So, you know, it was a very fun role. And I've never felt like, it's such a weird thing in this town where people are like, oh, you're playing the wife. Like, I'm sorry, in what world is that a bad thing? I mean, that was a fun role, and I really liked it.
And the Desperate Housewives had husbands that were playing the husbands.
That's
so
right.
I don't know what the problem is.
It was interesting because when you, in that second season, I think it was the second season, when we didn't have any children, did we? We did. The first season we did have a son, and then we got to meet the 13-year-old daughter for the bat mitzvah stuff. And I remember you guys called me in like I was going to be upset. Because, I mean, you know, women are all afraid of playing anyone older than 25. So you're like, would you be okay if we gave you a 13-year-old? And I thought, oh, more to do. Yes, that would be great. So I just never cared. None of that.
You were so great. That episode, the Bat Mitzvah episode, which is one of my favorite episodes. And
we had Melinda Clark on, and we were talking about the scene.
And you and Melinda, I mean, that to me, again, that is Hollywood in a nutshell. Totally. You've got these 2 former actors, or one still acting and one who
But I didn't know. I did not know that my character was an actor. And I have to tell you, Doug, in my own head, for fun, I made up that Ari and I were both going to law school. You know, you make stuff up because it gets you through the day. And then we decided to have a family, so I quit. But like, I was going to be a lawyer, and then you're like, you were on a soap opera. I was like, well, wait a minute, this is kind of screwed the 4 seasons.
But I did pass the bar.
I did.
I
passed
the bar exam.
Yeah. So you know, I think at that point, that's the fun thing about doing a show. You can't know what 8 years is going to be like, and you get thrown different things, and that's always.
And I can tell you unequivocally, you could have easily been that character, which is like the lawyer who we met at Michigan, whatever it was. Yeah. And the only reason it went that direction was because Melinda was on the show, and it hit me that this could be a funny moment, because as we've talked about on this podcast, I didn't have an 8-year plan. I didn't know who anybody was, and we learned as we went along. And I still, though, that scene, you guys are so good in such limited time to basically, you know, show what Hollywood is, which is this fucking competitive, nasty place where you guys were probably seeing each other at auditions all the time, which I'm sure from your own experience.
Between law school classes.
Right.
You're
No,
going
between
on
the bar and
auditions.
the audition for
When
the
you were
soap opera.
studying for the law,
Yeah.
for the bar exam.
I do appreciate that Perry didn't come from me. What in the fuck is this? I went to law school. I am not some
No,
soap
but
actor.
that's the fun part about acting. You get to make up all kinds of stuff because it makes it fuller. And I think it worked in that for me as a character who had such a strong husband, you would have to be smart and strong, and you couldn't be insecure about yourself or your status or because you do see that, and that would not have been a good dynamic. I mean, if Ari had a wife who was insecure,
Like a Stepford
right,
vibe.
it wouldn't have. It would he would have walked all over her.
Yeah.
And that was not the way that
I
worked.
find it so crazy that anyone sees him like being in charge of that relationship.
No way.
It's so ridiculous to me because you do, and you command, and that's more you than the writing. That's Perry coming in and going, I'm going to do it, which you had that basis from old school.
Right.
So what did you think about, okay, how are we going to make this different than old school, or how am I going to add to this? Was that any part of that?
Well, that is true. I'd never played that role before. I thought I had done a series with Rob Lowe, and I did play his executive assistant. And again, I just thought, if you're going to work with someone of a certain personality type, you've got to be incredibly strong. So just all the choices are never raise your voice, never, just you almost look at them as a child. And, you almost are like, you allow them to be. It was that. And that was really fun because as he's having a temper tantrum, it just helped feed my through line, which is like, he's just like a child and he needs to be reeled in and I'm here to help. And, I don't want him getting in trouble. So it was, I don't know. There was a little bit of that.
Was there any time where you just couldn't control yourself from laughing with Jeremy, or that you remember?
I mean, a bunch of times, right? I mean, like
he's really funny, and those therapy scenes where they're so ridiculous, they were hilarious. I mean, we always were laughing, we always did, and we always, I know, much to Doug's chagrin, I'm sure, we always would add stuff. It never made it in, but because we were having so much fun.
Doug's like, well, that's not in the script.
No, it would be at the end. It would be at the end, and we were no, but I do think, was it in the script? Remember when he goes, and my fifth therapist, and when
That was in the script.
That was in the but that was the sort of thing that we would have fun with, like it's really only two therapists, you're not our sixth, all those kinds of things, because Jeremy would push me to that, but it was really fun.
Right. Yeah. I mean, those are some people's favorite scenes, which makes me very happy, as this show was. These young dudes in Hollywood, you had this realistic look at this.
You had to break it up. I mean, that sort of, that was always one of the great things about like watching the show as well, right? Because we were all, I was around a little bit, not with you, but I was in Ari's office.
You had a bigger.
I had some kind of
straddled
crossover.
both. You did.
But you always got to, you read the script, whatever it is, but it was always kind of nice to watch when you actually watch it on the show.
Yeah,
it was just kind of new for you. Unlike Dillon, I actually would read the script, but watching it come to life when you're not there, you don't really see it. Mm-hmm. It was that was cool.
Yeah. So, and this Brian Van Green wants to know.
Van Giem.
Brian Van Giem.
Okay.
Anyway, Brian Van
Butcher
Giem.
everybody's name.
Sorry, Brian. Brian Van Giem wants to know, like, how did you relate personally to Mrs. Ari, Melissa Gold, and now that you're married with a child of your own, like, how does that character relate to your real life, if at all?
Well, the thing is, when I started doing Entourage, I moved to Costa Rica, where I lived like off grid with no phone in the jungle. Okay,
Literally.
So I literally, with sunblock that looked like was made of clay. You know what I mean? I was as the opposite of Mrs. Ari as possible, and I always sort of had a pretty crunchy hippie personal life. So Mrs. Ari was like an alter ego that was a blast. I mean,
you are the furthest. Perry Reeves is the furthest.
Perry's a
from
hippie.
Mrs.
Is that a
Ari.
good description?
Yeah, kind of.
180.
Kind of. I always say I just look a little bit. I don't look like that, but like my real personal.
Well, you look like that in the
life.
sense that it's you that played it.
Right,
but
I played
Perry
it.
Reeves.
But I wear. I mean,
free spirit.
I wear makeup. I don't look like I'm in Woodstock. Okay. Right. However, but my personality inside is more Woodstocky, and I guess so. Here I am living in Costa Rica, building this retreat. totally off grid, like hiking into the jungle, crossing the river 4 times by foot, like, and then I'd have to fly back for the Golden Globes. It was crazy, but it was awesome. I think Mrs. Ari kind of helped me be a stronger person. Like, honestly,
Really?
I do. I think I was always a little bit like the cool girlfriend or what, I just like nothing really bothered me, but maybe that wasn't really true. Maybe Mrs. Ari kind of got in there. I was like, wait a minute.
Helped you
These
set
are-
some boundaries?
Yeah,
in
maybe.
real life?
Maybe.
Well, I like where we're going with this because
Doug's like, this is all my doing.
No, I
That's right.
I didn't even mean that part of it. But Perry is as she said, goes to Costa Rica, lives with no running water.
Literally,
No,
Costa Rica.
we have amazing running water,
But
but
you
no,
didn't
but
at some point,
I
didn't
didn't
you?
have electricity.
Right, okay.
We were living off a car battery with a converter. So like, yes.
While we're shooting the show.
Okay, but
yeah,
what
yeah.
what
you
I
couldn't
was
get a hold of me because there were no phones.
but what I was gonna say is Perry, who played this sophisticated Beverly Hills housewife that we've seen who ran the show, you know a little bit about the entourage lifestyle because you lived with a star for a while.
Right, but way early on, like
So,
years
listen,
before that,
what are we
and
talking
watched
Tyler's all
him.
nervous
No,
right now.
What are we talking
watched
about?
him become really
David
successful.
Duchovny.
Oh, that's right.
They had a long relationship with handsome
Very
David
early,
Duchovny.
like in very, very young.
a lifetime
very,
ago.
I mean, it's like you think about it and you're like, oh my God, I was a child. Yeah,
But-
we're still friendly. Awesome guy.
But there's no doubt, like when we're starting, David Duchovny was kind of a guy
Yeah,
we
yeah,
talked
he
about
was
as
just,
a Vince.
That's
He's a
right.
Vince.
Yeah, totally. He when I met him, he had just gotten the X-Files, you know what I mean? So I watched him become really successful, and it's a lot. I mean, that kind of fame that comes on, even though you've been working for years, but you can never know how intense it is. He was a little lucky that he was in Canada, so it wasn't all over him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pre-social media and pre-everyone following you around.
He was a big
paparazzi.
star, though.
Oh, God, yeah. And I think he's still, I mean, you
Still
know,
is.
he
But
still
I mean,
is.
X-Files was like, bam.
That was huge, but
Yeah,
I
Californication
remember,
was
but
huge
I
also.
remember when I started seeing him after that. But I remember going, you did a pilot for Fox, a science fiction pilot for
weird.
Fox. No, I just didn't even
Understand.
because Fox, there were 4 networks and Fox wasn't the best one, and it was a science fiction. It all sounded not good. And look, I mean, it was an
Right.
awesome show,
Yeah.
and it went on for years. Like,
And they did a movie.
and they did 100 movies, right? I mean, they did,
they
a
do a
reboot.
movie?
They did a movie.
couple
I
of-
saw the movie in the theaters.
Yeah,
Like,
they
I
were
went. I
so
was a
good
big X-Files
together.
fan,
They
yeah.
were great, and it was great. But I will say, if it was today, if that show had blown up the way it did then, I mean, I can't imagine that he would have. I got to have a life. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere, right? It was back in the day where it was a little less,
Yeah, I mean, listen, there wasn't cell phone cameras in your face.
That's right, that's
everywhere you
right,
go, you know?
that's
It's
right.
like if somebody happened to have a camera, it's
Yeah.
Well, it's less
it's
now.
definitely tricky. I look at like I was watching Justin Bieber walking into the
God, it
UFC
would be
fight, and I
awful.
was thinking, poor kid. I
Yeah.
mean, granted, he's got more money than God, whatever
Doesn't
you want to say.
matter.
But I was thinking, man, for these kids to move around and to do anything, it's just near
Anything.
impossible. So
Yeah.
that would have been the time to hit it.
Right. That would have
Yeah,
been. That
right.
was. That's exactly right. But I still think it was again like a lot to watch. And I am a really private person, and that's probably why even when we were doing Entourage, I was really fine going to Costa Rica, and I didn't do a lot of PR, and I didn't do the things that everyone kept saying, you have to do this because this is your moment. And I just, by nature, this is why social media has been so hard for me. I mean, I was on a freeform show for the last couple years, and they're like, why do you only have this small number of people? Like, why aren't you what is, it's just, I feel like I don't like documenting my life that way. However, that's great for someone who does.
I don't.
It's a hard one. My child's never been on social media, but I mean, some people, that's part of their brand. Luckily, there's a big range. You can do a lot of things. I do think now, the show would have to be different if you redid it, because that is such a huge part of being a celebrity now.
Right, like how does Vince move in the social media?
I
age?
don't. I mean, it's
Listen,
like even texting. We did not text
everything
when we were
changes.
doing that show.
Look, you could watch old movies and everything would have to be changed because there's
That's true.
fantastic movies that would be
No.
the problem would be solved in a simple cell phone call in 5 seconds in a lot of great movies.
That's true.
So everything
Oh, I
does
see what you're saying.
everything changes and adjusts.
Well,
and
we talk about.
But ours feels pretty modern still. I mean, if
Yeah.
you watch it, it doesn't. It's not like a rotary phone and people
Right.
are wearing weird clothes. I mean, it still looks and feels in the music. It still has. It still
feels current.
I
the
think it still
biggest
feels
thing
current.
that would change
except
today,
for that,
which
the
I
cell
do,
phone.
but I do find it interesting. The thing today, and even when I'm watching other movies, like Ari, obviously could not speak the way he speaks. It's just not possible.
Well, he'd be fired in 30 seconds.
I mean, there's
It just
nothing to talk
happens.
about.
Be
You
fired.
know?
I mean,
Right.
I literally the same personality traits that Ari possessed that everyone thought was so funny have just gotten a very important person removed from the premises immediately.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean,
And again, Perry, and Kevin, that agents in this town spoke far worse than anything Ari ever said on the show, and people treated each other far worse than anything that ever happened on the show. So it was a reflection comedically, but of what was actually going on in the world.
We talked about this, and we talked about a lot of our favorite movies from the 80s and the early 90s. That when I mean, Weird Science, right? PG,
right.
Weird Science is about two kids that make a really hot girl, and she's their slave.
Yes.
Go sell that at Columbia Pictures today. See how that goes.
All of the John Hughes movies, which I loved. I mean, they made me want to be an actor.
Right.
16 Candles and what? They're all.
Can we talk about the scene in 16
They
Candles?
give away a girl.
they-
Take her. She's
Right.
unconscious. She's passed out. Here, she's yours.
And I mean, what was the character, the exchange student's name?
Long Duck Dong.
I mean, truly, if you
that's
you
crazy.
look back at it, and in that moment, it was so part of your cultural that. Just you didn't even think
It was funny. There were studio movies. Soul Man
Soul-
was a studio movie.
Yeah.
For the love of
You
God.
have to look at times, and then things do change. And I'm not going to lie. I've seen Grease. We talked about this. I've seen it 1,000 times, and I saw it this week. It played very differently to me.
I bet.
It is crazy. I mean, guy in the first scene is in the bleachers looking up, trying to see through a girl's skirt. Like, if you did that in high school, you're thrown out of the school. You may be arrested. I mean, right or wrong, though.
Perry.
And it was all funny then. We're like, oh, look at him. He's trying to look up that girl's skirt. So
Perry, you know what we do? We usually, when we're covering an episode, we'll come in, we'll sit down on the couch, and Doug and Kevin and I will watch with our notepads. And it's funny how often, again, without any regrets, or it is what it is, but there's we'll hear lines of dialogue where Doug and I will all just look at each other and go, not only could we never do it, but it's almost like, but I mean, what was that Dom? What did Dom say? When we had Dom, we had Dom over, and we're on our way over, and Dom just drops like a terrible racial slur that made total sense in the moment, but you listen back and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was like even Doug and Dillon and I are like uncomfortable with a few of
but
the
it
lines.
still speaks to the same thing, that you look at the times of what they were. And again, we had a show, our executives were female and gay, and they read every single word that came out, and we all thought that this was an accurate depiction of what the world
right.
was. So,
And actually, HBO is one of the more progressive studios at the time. A lot of women, a lot of women of color, a lot of gay people that were all. HBO was very inclusive.
Yeah.
I mean, I think things have all stepped up, but at the time, although
So are you in for the reboot, which Connolly wants to
the
do?
reboot. When? I don't know how many times people have asked me when are you going to do a show about Ari and Mrs. Ari? Just because if it was on, again, how could you really do it?
And but you could really do it, because it's interesting. Well, Connolly won't like this conversation. Dillon would really be miserable. But I actually watched, when I look back at the show, I mean this sincerely, and I did have another pilot after that called 40 that was really inspired a lot by Ari and Mrs. Ari's character, because I did think there would be a great show with them, and I thought they were a great.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I think it was obvious. It certainly was obvious to me that was you and Melissa.
Yeah.
Just the
oh my God,
the
I have a
therapy
super
and all
funny. You're making me think. It's reminding me. Doug and Melissa and my partner at the time, Jeff, who's still my business partner in Costa Rica. We're great friends. We were all four going out to dinner. We were going to Giorgio's, which is a kind of a Hollywood place,
That's
but a little
Doug's
bit. Yeah,
spot.
right. I love
Perry
Gio-
by the way, Perry loves the truffles. I haven't forgotten about it.
I do the white truffles,
Oh, so good.
and I just ordered 10 pastas, and people are like, she can't eat it all, and I do. But as we were walking in, the four of us, who was coming out but Ari Emanuel and his then wife Sarah. So here we have me and Jeff, you and Melissa, Ari and Sarah. And Ari's like, oh my God, here we all are. And which one is Sarah? And both Melissa and I were like, well, neither one of us. This is a fictional character, kind of more based on Melissa and Sarah. Not really. I mean, you could just see that it was uncomfortable, but it was so meta. I mean, it was so unbelievably
Which you have
crazy.
another story that I want to hear about, because Bobby Flay obviously came into this show and was this
awesome.
thing, but you were.
So
what was
I was at Chiconi's, yet another Hollywoody type place with Bobby's ex-wife, who's a good friend of mine, and at the time we had done 2 movies together, and she was in town, so we were having lunch, and while we were having lunch, I think Bobby texted her and said, "I think I'm going to be on Entourage." Now, of course, we had no idea. It was the fictional Bobby Flay who was single and would be dating me, but we just didn't.
This is confusing
that
even me.
that was crazy.
You're like,
that
just
was
so you know,
so much
he's-
fun though. That
he's
episode
playing single.
That
He's
he was
playing
playing
single.
single. He was playing single. He was not. He was.
But didn't someone say something to you at the
Oh my God!
restaurant?
Recently, and so then cut to like I loved working with him, and it was so much fun. And I knew
He's a
him
cool
sort
dude.
of.
He
He's
was cool.
awesome. I knew him a little bit from the marriage. So I'd be in New York, and I'd go
From
have dinner
the-
with
the
him.
real marriage.
From the original marriage that he was in, and but by now the show's Entourage is over. Cut to he's divorced. I am now. Am I married? I think I am now married to someone. And I went and did his show. You know, I went and was a judge, and he made a special episode for me for vegetarian because every time he asked me, I'm like, I can't even taste the food.
Right.
I can't be on your show. So we did it, and we were all having dinner, and it was me and a girlfriend of mine and Bobby, and we were at Gato at his restaurant, and I'm sitting there right next to him, and we're chatting, and someone comes over and says, "When are you two going to get back together? You made such a great couple." And I'm thinking, what are you
Isn't it
talking
so
about?
weird?
What are you talking about? His act? Do they think I'm the actress Stephanie March? But
You
she's
totally
blonde.
forgot.
Like I completely forgot
What?
that.
Why would they say that? What
That
are they
my
doing?
character dated his character. It was just 2. It took me literally like a beat of 5 to go, oh, they're talking about the show, because Bobby and I mean, we probably both blushed. It was like slightly embarrassing. Like, does it look like we're dating? You know? Anyway, that was very funny.
I mean, it is wild when people actually think you're
They do it
somehow
all the
this
time.
fake person.
They
that
do all the time.
somebody else
Because I have
happens all the time.
another good one. We were at the premiere, one of the premieres in New York back in the earlier days, and behind, you know, I was brought into my seat. I was with my mom and again my ex, and behind us is Billy Joel. And
I remember that. I was right there. We were sitting next to
yeah, that's
near each
right.
other.
And his the girlfriend, chef girlfriend, who is
Yep.
friends with Bobby, and he you know, someone introduces us and he goes, "You're such a bitch." I was like, "Oh, it's very nice to meet you. My name is Perry Reeves." Oh my God, I just can't stand you. Like on and on and on. And it's becoming embarrassing.
Right,
Like,
what are you talking
are
about?
you having a stroke? Does we need to call, you know, one
He's
of your
probably-
wranglers?
probably
What is
had a
going
couple
on?
in him. He
So, but the
probably had a
point
few
is finally, after he's gone on and on, I was like, does my character remind you of your ex-wife? Because this seems awfully personal. I'm an actress playing a character. It's so nice to meet you. And I sat down. You could see his poor girlfriend at the time. Or his wife, horrified. I mean, it was horrifying. It was so, he wouldn't stop.
I actually had dinner. Melissa and I, the real Melissa,
Uh-huh.
had dinner with Billy Joel and the chef girlfriend who became his wife for a minute.
Oh, they were married. Okay.
But I remember the moment where she told me that they met in an elevator. They looked at each other. She had no idea who he was, and the chemistry just was like boom, instantaneously. And I was sitting at dinner
like,
going,
right.
"That's the most ridiculous fucking story I've ever heard." Anyway, so I love Billy Joel. Obviously,
It is funny though. Sometimes people will do things along those lines, and I'll just ask them. I'll be like, "Can I ask you a question? Are you serious?"
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
Connolly-
mean, because sometimes some
Wait,
people are sarcastic.
Yeah. No, but I think some people have a hard time, you know, because the show, they get very invested. It's like
Right.
they're friends. They watch us on TV and they think of us as those
Right.
characters. And so that's
Yeah,
what
I mean,
but
people
didn't
like
you have
the
an
Emmanuel-
experience?
yeah,
well-
Connolly had a date. Tell us about
well,
that.
first of
Yeah,
all,
the
too, like
date,
the
the
Emmanuel
girl.
thing,
Remember that
people want really badly to just refuse to want to accept that her and I are as close of friends. But we are
know.
literally brother and sister.
Yes.
And I had to tell people like, dude, you're watching a TV show.
Right,
You
this isn't
understand
real.
that. You
But tell us
understand
about that
right?
girl, that date you had.
Oh no, yeah, I know the girl.
That was
who-
my favorite.
She opened the date with saying, "I
Never
believe."
watched.
Well, the car was like we were still backing out of the driveway. She said, I've never seen an episode of the show. I hope that's not a problem." Which weird,
weird
thing to
thing
say
to
anyway, because
say.
I didn't say anything, and then she called me E a bunch of times. And it was awkward. Yeah, that didn't. That was a first and only date. The funniest thing about
That
about
is hilarious.
the funniest thing about that, it ended really bad. Like I dropped her off. I was like, "Hey, listen, sometimes it's just a wash, you know.
Yeah.
Let's just call it a day. It's great. I'll see you out and about. Yeah, whatever." So we go our separate ways. I don't know if I've ever told you the story. Sometime later, there's some kind of a party, and I'm going right from work. Jeremy and I see Jeremy there. I know this because Jeremy and I bump into each other in the wardrobe trailer because we need clothes to go to this party.
Oh my God, you're stealing from your
right.
character.
So I have a suit on, right? So I put on a suit, and I'm chatting with my buddies at the bar, and I look over and I see this girl with her friends, and we're both simultaneously telling the stories. I'm telling my friends, she's telling her friends. God only knows what her version of it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a little bit different. And with that, I reach into my pocket of my wardrobe suit, and I have a Murphy Group business card. So she flips me off, kind of kidding, joking around. And I was like, oh, no, well, we're curious to hear your version of the story. We're going back and forth. It was all good spirit. And at the end, I was like, but listen, if you ever need anything. And I handed her my Murphy Group business card. It was
blew her mind.
By the way, I had one business card.
By the way, she still has it.
Yeah, exactly.
She framed it. It's next to her bed.
By the way, you know what she was? A lawyer.
Really?
She went to law school.
You're making Perry upset because she's still. By the way,
right.
how great would that be in the reboot? Mrs. Ari,
Goes back to
Melissa.
law
She
school.
can't be Mrs. Ari anymore. She's Melissa. Went to law school in her spare time and is like,
And also, too, I think it was the same thing with Turtle before it became a thing of like,
did
well,
Turtle
what's
ever
this?
have a name?
Yeah, Sal.
Sal, which was.
Sal, that's right. I remember
And
that.
that was Jerry
That's
Jerry
Jerry's
because his
very
friend
good-
passed away,
very good
and
friend of
Jerry
Jerry's
wanted
that
that, so we had that. But
And
But
it's-
it
and
became
fit.
a thing when people started asking, well, what's this person's real name? It was like, well, we're not. We'll tell you one day.
Yeah.
Right. It almost took on a life of its own, and then. I mean, I believe they were both revealed in season 8, right? When did Melissa?
season
Jerry
8,
came earlier,
yeah.
I think.
No.
Mine was with Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby called me Melissa.
That's amazing. What season was that? 7?
8. It was
I
the
think
last
it was
season.
8, yeah.
It
I'm
was
telling
the last
you.
season because I was dating Bobby,
Right.
and he
You
called
were
me
dating Bobby
Melissa.
Flay.
Melissa.
And Jerry Turtle. You found out Turtle's name. That was season 8.
But
Wait,
you know what?
Gary's got information in the booth.
Season 5 for Turtle.
Yeah, I believe that. That makes
Wow,
more
okay,
sense.
that
to me.
makes more sense.
But
But people would ask me all the time, "Doesn't it bother you? It's like Mrs. R. You're not even a person." I'm like, okay, wow, this is way deeper than I'm going. It's a show and it's funny and I like
Right.
it. But remember, Mr. Big on Sex and the City
That
was
was fine.
Mr. Big until was it the final season?
yeah.
Right.
So I mean,
And
and
by
he
the
was
way,
a
that
big
was-
man. He's a big.
Can I tell you,
character.
Perry? That was my worry, that people were thinking that I was stealing it from Sex and the
No.
City, not that it was somehow insulting your character, which
No,
I find absolutely
right.
ridiculous.
But I don't think anyone ever put those two together just because, for whatever reason, because my character was female, it was considered derogatory. I just never felt that way. I mean, never, not once. I thought it was funny. I still think it's funny. And when you do these cameos or whatever, people
Right.
love you to do the birthday wishes and stuff.
Right.
I always say it's Mrs. Ari. I don't say it's Melissa Gold. I'm like, there's no impact whatsoever. They're like, who's that?
Perry, the other
It's funny.
question is, and you go into jobs and you make friends, right? And
Yeah.
you don't. What is it about? Something about the women on Entourage just bonded.
Well, we were all brunette. Okay, there's that.
I mean, you guys just.
By the way, that's
We
creepy.
all wore the
that's
same
creepy for
size-
so many reasons
We
because I
used to stop it
dated
'cause-
nothing but brunettes for 40
but
years. Now I have a blonde girlfriend.
Here's the funny thing.
you
is
guys are
when
like really all friends.
Yeah, we're all
for real.
friends. We all are friends. We're all pretty nice people. Because you never know who you're going to end up working
That's
with.
what I'm saying.
I can't say that's true for every job.
But
I had.
also,
But do you remember when you were casting the part of Constance? I remember reading the script going, oh, it'll be some like big boobed blonde, like the full on opposite of me. And then it was Constance, who she and I are very similar. And I thought that is the most realistic casting because men have types and Ari's type is strong, petite brunettes who are kind of ball busters. And, I was like, this would never happen on any other show. The network would go, no, they're too much alike. You need to get a blonde or get someone taller or they would have never let that fly. And I remember when she came on the set, I'm like, this is brilliant. I don't know if you knew how brilliant that was, but I thought it was
I
brilliant.
mean, I always think I'm brilliant. But
You know what? It's funny too. Like people will say, "Do you have a type?" And you don't feel like you have a type, but you have a track record, right?
Yeah,
and
so
if you
she's
look
in-
back,
yeah.
that's right.
I have a brunette track record for sure. But what I loved about all of the women cast that we had were they not only were written as strong women, they were, and you guys brought that with you. So that just makes my job so much easier. And also, though, you say they were all friends. We were all friends. Like, when I go to New
everyone
York,
got
I'll
along.
go out to dinner with Carla.
Right.
You know, like, we were all friends. Emmanuel will go
You
to
just don't
London
always
with.
walk away from
Yeah.
jobs with lifelong friendships that really mean something to you.
Yeah, that's true. But that's
you
what the
know?
show is about.
Right.
And you know, what if people always say to me, well, what if it had been someone else? I'm like, it wouldn't have, that's like saying, what if one of the characters on Friends was someone else? You cannot
Right.
imagine it, and it may not have worked, and it
Yeah.
may not have been successful.
Yeah.
I mean, what if Jeremy didn't do it? I'm like, the only other person that could have done that, I mean, there isn't anyone, you know? There's not a soul.
And here's the thing, there truly
Robert Downey Jr. maybe.
There
That's funny.
truly
That was the one guy.
there truly was never anybody. It was always Jeremy.
Oh, of course.
For Doug, and it was just a matter of getting him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but listen, you know, Dominic Lombardozzi, who embodied what sort of these characters were. Doug was hell bent on him. I mean, it's hard to imagine, as great as Dom is. By the way, the guy works with Scorsese. His last movie was with Scorsese. The guy's a great actor. It would be hard to imagine Jerry not being Turtle.
Yeah.
No, you
It's
can't.
impossible.
Somebody
And
else
Jerry
being-
didn't even, like, again, had it been a different network, Jerry wouldn't have even gotten an audition.
Well, that-
because
and
he,
that's the
because
truth.
he was different than he was just younger or whatever. It never did anyone ever flinch. Did anyone ever have a struggle?
I
with that?
never would have gotten that job on anywhere else but HBO.
That's right.
If that were a regular network, no chance you line that cast up. It would have gotten shot down. And Doug, I don't know why you're always gun shy to say this. Do you know who was in the mix for Vince?
Oh, no, who?
Peter Facinelli.
Oh, that's right. I do
We can
remember
say
that.
that because the guy went on to have great. I mean, the guy's made gazillion dollars. He's done really well for himself.
Yeah. But a different person. But then there was also someone who was a little more Mark Wahlberg.
Right.
And that was Dillon Bruno.
Dillon
Do you
Bruno.
know who I love and
Yeah.
is such a talented actor.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
just
he
hard to
it's just hard to
imagine
imagine
anyone,
because, but that's just a very different person.
Yeah. Well, listen, the thing also, obviously, Jeremy's a different story because I wrote it
Right.
with
for-
Jeremy in mind. But as far as looking for Vince, when I was looking for Mark, as soon as we found Adrian, it just adjusted what kind of crew he would be
Right.
friends with, and
Right.
and it does the same thing. Like you and Jeremy, you know, who knows if it was I don't know. Like there were a couple of people.
Well, that storyline just could have gotten whittled down to
It
nothing.
could have gotten whittled
down to nothing.
If that anything at all.
But also Jeremy, we almost couldn't have Jeremy because of that contract thing. He didn't want to sign a 6-year deal, and there was Michael Landis was awesome. I mean, great guy and great actor, and looked
Wait a
even
second,
more
is that
like
who was on the?
yeah. He looked even
I
more
didn't know-
like
I did not know that.
He looked even more like Ari Emanuel than Jeremy did. But who knows what your chemistry with him would have been?
No, no.
And we have no idea. You know, so
Do you
the
know what?
universe does not work that way.
In old school, they who did they want for the Luke Wilson role, like Jack Black?
Whoever the guy at the moment was.
So they rewrote it and offered it to him. But then Leah Remini would have played. I wouldn't have gotten like they wouldn't have
The
been
ripple
the same.
effect,
Yeah, the
right.
ripple effect is so massive.
we talked about this last week. Tom Selleck was supposed to be Indiana Jones. Of course, it would have worked because it's Spielberg. But who
But it's
knows
a-
what it
it's-
would have
yeah,
been?
It's
You
a
know.
totally different
So,
thing.
Do
anyway,
you know
we
who
got-
Do Gray Scott is?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, Do Gray Scott had the role of Wolverine, deal done,
I didn't know that.
wardrobe, the whole bit, and they wouldn't let him out of Mission Impossible 2, and he lost the role to Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine.
Of course, but
By the
in
way,
hindsight,
that's a tough one.
I
By
mean,
the
how
way,
could they do
Perry,
that to him?
I pray that Dougray Scott does not listen to this podcast
No,
because
Dougray
Connolly's
Scott's-
obsessed with that,
well,
and
he-
it's
well,
got to be so
Dougray
depressing.
Scott loves me. He's a good
He's
buddy of
also
mine.
No, I'm
an
not saying he
incredible
doesn't love
actor
you.
who
He probably
does
hates
amazing
Wolverine,
work,
though.
and he's gone on. I mean, but it is weird
To think about- well,
But I
and that's
tested for
what I-
Sex in the City. I tested
what?
for Kristen Davis's role. It was me and
Wow.
Kristen, and they dressed
can
us very
see it.
differently. She had on the A-line skirt and a little white blouse, and I looked like I was going to a party. You know, so they just wanted two different girls, and I've never watched. I don't care. I've tested for a million things and not gotten it. But
that
then
one
you see
hurt.
that one was kind of like, yeah. And she's so nice, and she's totally different. She's actually better for the role. Like, I'm a little edgy. She's very, she was more wide-eyed and probably perfect for the part. And I probably was acting.
Right, it's
the
hard to
part.
imagine.
But it
Yeah.
hits you a little bit.
Well,
Sometimes you're like,
sometimes
huh.
you see something that you really like and you don't get it, and.
The last thing
don't know.
I want to say before Doug goes to his fan questions and butchers a few more names. When we talked about the Mr. and Mrs. Smith thing, going back to the Hugh Jackman of it, they could have very easily denied you that opportunity.
could have, absolutely.
If they didn't like you, and I'm not saying that anybody
No,
didn't
the
like
ADs were not going to let me go.
Right.
The second AD, the first AD, they were like, you cannot leave. You are not leaving. You are not doing this. We haven't gotten to the piece yet. We're not going to, and you're not doing this job. And I have always, I was raised in a very conservative household. You don't push your way through. You don't ask for something that isn't appropriate. And I was like, okay, muster up every ounce of strength I can. And I'm going to Doug because I really
Lyman.
And I told him, Doug Lyman. And I said, there's this amazing show. It's for
really
HBO,
want to do it.
and it's with my friend. And I just, if you could make me, I thought about it a lot. If I could be the driver of the van, and then you'll never see me get out. And he was like, okay.
But if he didn't like you,
No.
he would have said, Perry, I can't
do
I
it.
can't do it.
No.
That's the point. I think
I'm a
being
nice
a good person and
It's
being
true.
and being somebody that's good to work with, they want to go the extra mile to help you out. Now, I'm not saying that Dougray, how they couldn't get him out of Mission Impossible 2, why they would want to deny any human being a few $100 million.
But I had
it's
HBO.
very
I
like
had,
that.
well, wait, I had cool jobs that HBO wouldn't let me do. So
Because of Entourage.
Yeah, it's contractual, and it's not
Listen,
like they didn't
it
like
is-
me. I just think
It is a very simple thing to say no. And when a person gets a call and they're
It's
in
easy
their,
to say no.
and they're in their own stressful head, they're like, no, that's ridiculous.
Right.
They're not thinking how important something is, how life-changing
how
it
it
might
would
be to
help
somebody.
their show.
Yeah.
Telling me that Dougray Scott's agent couldn't call and go, listen, bro, you realize that you're going to cost this guy. You realize what you're doing to this person, right?
I mean,
and I don't know. It's
It
just-
happened.
That's when
again.
astrology steps in.
I agree.
But it also-
or it was meant to be.
That's what I meant.
It
That's
is
what I'm
meant
saying.
to
I was
be.
like, you just.
But it's also who is the person in charge at that moment and
Yeah.
how accommodating they are. Perry's got a new show, Paradise City,
That's right.
which is awesome. But you got Billy Walsh, Reese Corriero is on there. And
I
you're doing
know.
scenes with Reese.
Yeah, we had like some cool. He was playing like the manager of the singer, and I play the mom of. It's a big cast, and it's about, again, it's another show about Hollywood, but the music side. And Reese and I got to do a scene together with is it Mark Boone, and Drea De Mateo's, and it was a really
nice.
Oh, wow.
super great fun cast, and we all got to do some like scenes at venues where there was music and party scenes and stuff. And Reese and I were cracking up. We're like, can you believe that we're doing the show together? Because
Reese
we
the
never
best.
never got to do any scenes.
He doesn't. He didn't say many. He didn't have many words with many people.
No, he didn't. But
Right.
we did. We had fun. But the show's really good, and it's I guess I have a thing for Hollywood because the show I did before that was also about Hollywood, and I played a big movie producer. So apparently, Mrs. Ari was the wife of someone, and now I've been the mom, I've been the producer. I get to do everything within.
Well, by the way,
world.
not
Same thing
not
with
to
Constance,
not
too,
to be
right?
an asshole.
Yes, Constance, amazing. She's so great.
Unreal, which actually I'm working with the creator of that on another show that I have right now.
Oh, that
Sarah Gertrude Shapiro,
whose
awesome.
child is in gymnastics with my child. So there you go.
Very cool. So, but I mean, not for nothing. There weren't a lot of Hollywood shows, and we definitely paved the way
Started-
to make
absolutely.
those.
Well, to show that it could work.
Yeah.
Right? That people give the audience a little credit. They get it. They'll understand. They'll figure it out.
And we helped them understand.
Right.
We did. We taught a lot of people a lot of things about the inside work of this business that I think we did it in a way that was palpable, or whatever the word is that I'm looking for. Anyway.
I mean, I never realized how lucky we were that we shot in Los Angeles.
by the way,
because I lived in
exactly.
Costa Rica, but now
No, but
it'd be
but
really
it's
good.
true. We drove down. I live up Doheny, and our base camp was at the Pacific Design Center.
Oh, no,
I
I'm
could
saying-
literally put my car in neutral and roll.
I could
into-
ride my
into
bike
work.
to one
Totally.
of the Ari Mrs.
That
Ari
was one of
But
the
what
things
about
that
when I
we
took
took
you
for
to
granted.
Italy to shoot? Perry?
the Italian shoot was good, and that
Where
red-
was that?
Malibu.
No, wasn't the Italian scene?
Well, the villa was in Hollywood,
That's
but
right.
the grape thing we did for the little
Oh,
commercial was in Malibu.
That was the most. Okay, sorry, it wasn't the show. It wasn't the whole 8th season. It wasn't the movie. My favorite part of all of Entourage.
Everyone needs to look
was
at this. It's
doing
online.
the Cadillac campaign with Ari and Mrs. Ari. It's a little short film. It was a blast. Wasn't that fun?
And do you know how they sold me on that? Not that obviously I got paid, but like,
Yeah, it was part of the sale.
Italy's my Malibu's my favorite place in the world. And they're like,
They
we're
said,
going to
"We'll
do
go to
this in
Italy."
Italy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, and then as soon as I like wrote this
So
little
we're looking
script,
at this budget, Doug. How do you feel about Malibu for Italy?
and it really looked great, didn't it?
It looked amazing. I remember when my agent called me, they're like, we got you this really cool campaign, blah, blah, blah. They're going on. And I'm like, well, that's great. And then they said, Andres, I'm like, you didn't get me that. Doug got me that, and Doug wrote that for me.
And I love it so much. It's Ari. We'll have to post it. Ari and Mrs. Ari, Melissa
fun.
are
We're
in Italy. And
We should
stomping
post our commercials.
grapes.
We'll post our Johnny Walker
Yeah,
commercials.
Connolly directed
we're
that.
stomping on grapes in a big,
Tub,
in
right?
a big tub with our bare feet. It was really fun.
It's awesome.
Oh, and I had to drive this little Italian car, and Jeremy was afraid to be in the car with me. Like he was like, I want my stunt double in there.
I mean, this car now.
I think he did do it, but we were on a windy road. Remember, we were out in Angeles Forest or whatever. It was crazy.
That car was tiny.
It had to be going so I could put it in gear. I mean, it was like a little piece of tin.
But
All
it was
right,
fun.
what do you got?
All right, Where She Wanders wants to know. Jeremy said it on this show, but he was crushing on you the whole time. So
Really?
was
That's
well,
so
there you
sweet.
go. Where She Wanders wants to know if you knew that.
Well, Jeremy and I, that's one of the reasons I think we both really liked each other. Like we knew each other before. We had friends in common in the 90s, and there was always like a fun banter with us always. So that was definitely.
But you never dated, just so everyone knows.
We never did date. I mean, full disclosure, I think we may have gone out to lunch, but I don't think it was a date. I had just maybe broken up with someone. I mean, I don't know. Like we talked about
Before Entourage or
yeah.
after?
Oh my God, no, before. This was like.
Did you ever play
the
this
90s.
weird game with cards that Connolly played with
talking
Soleil Moon
about-
Frye, which we talked about on Friday, called I don't even know what it's called, but they accidentally made out.
You,
Did you ever?
You didn't have much of a social life.
We
in high
didn't
school,
accidentally we never accidentally made out. In fact, I think maybe the only time, well, no, I guess Mrs. Ari did make out with Ari on numerous occasions, but the first time was when we were doing, it was supposed to be in Santa Barbara, but we shot it at the Chateau Marmont, and I was totally unprepared for like I mean, it was like full on making out, and I remember whispering in his ears like, don't get my boobs out of this nightgown, because like you know, my clothes must remain on. Like I'm whispering while the camera's rolling. No, but you know, it was kind of realistic, and that's when he takes the phone call and he'd taken Viagra. And I like get up and walk out, and then I come back, and he's like, "Wait a minute," and I'm like, "Yeah, see you later." And I think I threw him a remote, like, "Go watch something." I don't think that was in the script.
It definitely wasn't. Jeremy added the line, what do you call it? R. Kelly at recess line for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I threw him the remote.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fun.
So, but that brings me to this question by Sly Stunt 2004, who said, Jeremy, because we've talked about it on the show, he goes for things, and sometimes he doesn't prepare the other actor, Jordan Belfi and Josh LaBar. Was there anything that you weren't ready for?
I think usually when you do makeout scenes, I mean, we've all done love scenes, and usually like, are you comfortable with this, or is there anything you don't want me to do? And there was nothing. It was like, bam. Right. But I knew Jeremy so well, I wasn't like offended or anything. I was just like, okay, and here we go.
The only thing I ever remember is Jeremy had like a fish lunch. Do you remember this?
Oh my God.
By the way,
my God.
I remember that too.
It was a shrimp and steak lunch, and I'm like, we're at the table, like we broke, and we were coming back to continue making out, and I was like, are you gonna eat that? And I said, I am deathly allergic to shellfish. Like if we make out, I will have anaphylaxis, and that will be the end of this
Mrs.
day. Yeah. He's like, oh my God, okay. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
So we got rid of
That
the fish.
is.
It wasn't fish. It was literally, it
funniest-
was shrimp. I mean, it was specifically shrimp.
Also, too, Jeremy loves his seafood, and she has a shellfish reaction.
That would have been funny.
It's
Had
a
I not
disaster.
been standing with him, we were going to
Nothing
eat
funny.
lunch together.
Right.
Like he's my friend. But it is funny, like when you have scenes like that, usually they do them at the beginning of a movie where you don't know someone very well, so that it's kind of like, you know, if you end up not liking them, it doesn't show yet. But with me and Jeremy, we were such good friends. It was kind of like, oh my God, this is hilarious. But okay, let's go.
When I did,
My husband's going to listen to this and go, what the fuck are you talking about?
When Jeremy, when Ari and Dana Gordon are hooking up, I was directing that episode. And Doug always used to make fun of me. I would do that. There's a lot of reasons. Like, you know, you do push-ups. If you get your shirt off, you just bang out some push-ups, right?
He always did, Jeremy.
So, well, that's it. So Jeremy was doing this scene with Constance, and I brought up dumbbells out of my trailer. 25-pound dumbbells, and Jeremy's fucking like, we're rolling the camera. I mean, it's quiet. You can hear the film rolling through the camera, and Jeremy's still doing his curls. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, all right, action, Jeremy, stop.
I told him the one to
Jeremy
keep going.
does the scene, right?
He's
And I'm like, cut. And I'm like, he's like, what is that? I'm like, well, I mean, it was good. You look like you're gonna fucking die. Looks like you're having a heart attack. But take a deep breath. The muscles are still pumped, buddy. The muscles are still pumped. But let's take a breather, catch your breath, and let's do it again.
Did he get mad at you?
No, but it was funny. I mean, I'm like, Jeremy, you literally have veins popping out of your face. You look like you're gonna fall over. Take a breath. Somebody get the guy
because you do
want
to prepare. Like they do always. They use body makeup, do all those kinds of things.
I do all of those things.
But I was wearing like some gorgeous La Perla ensemble, and Jeremy's preparing. And I just looked at him and I said, dude, if anyone is looking at you in
we
this
got
scene,
problems.
then I have failed in every way.
Right.
Look at this outfit.
And by the way,
we started laughing.
And by the way, they were not Perry, because the
I
amount of comments on the internet.
He was lying down. I believe I crawled on top of him. I mean, like, it really was not.
But the amount of comments on the IG page that I had to delete, because I'm sadly running the page now. I fucking do 9 jobs over here. But I run the page, and
you
people
don't
are like,
sleep.
but
That's
I don't
why.
sleep either. But people like, Mrs. Ari, oh my God, I
Yeah,
love
they
her. Like
love
they creep on you, and you look good. So.
I had someone in an airport come up to me. We were in the first class lounge, and I was with someone I was dating, and she's like, "Are you guys married?" And I said, "No." She goes, "Well, I didn't think so because I watch your show, and no one wears lingerie like that for their husband." So I was like, "But are you?" And I said, "Are you divorced?"
By the way, it's not a bad point that she's making, but
Well,
again,
it might be considered awkward in a lounge from a complete stranger.
You know what?
no, but that's
though?
not what I meant. I meant as far as the show.
Yeah, but I was okay. I think some artistic license. Like I think
By the way,
Ari and
it's
Mrs. Ari had a
great.
pretty hot sex life. So
I think it's great, and it's
it was
look,
inspirational.
The
And it's
show
also a
is
TV show.
and
But
our
the
kid-
show is aspirational and wish fulfillment, and while it's realistic, that was it. But I just want to make it clear. Perry was very involved
very
in what
behind
she
that.
was wearing and all of that.
Yeah,
and,
no,
and
I was living in Costa Rica doing yoga every day. Why not?
Right.
Wear lingerie,
And
right?
you look good, and you deserve to show that off.
Thank
so
you.
Adam Hearn wants to know whether you cried when Christina Aguilera was singing. Did you cry?
Well, if you recall correctly, Mrs. Ari didn't show up for her own party. For the Mrs. Oh,
Yes.
did I cry? You mean when I watched the episode?
I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
I forgot you
it's-
didn't show for the
it's fair.
party.
I didn't show up for the party. That's right. Remember, I'm getting drunk like
I
at
do
some
remember.
bar, and I think Eminem came like,
Yep.
that same day, and I it was me and then him.
Such surreal shit.
It was people were devastated that I walked out on him. I mean, I still to this day. Oh, this before the 8th season, people were like, how could you do that? I'm like, did you not watch the prior 7 seasons? Like, this is a build up.
This wasn't a rash decision. This was well thought out.
She set a boundary. He crossed it. It was 8 years of putting up with it. Yeah, rewatched the show.
Matthew Christo wants to know, like,
Okay.
did you ever have to discipline my children? And is that weird? I don't.
No. Though I have to say, just Matthew, Doug's children are awesome, and they were not Hollywoodish kids. I mean, it wasn't the same thing. I have had that experience before. I have watched parents give their kids straight up sugar to get them to perform and stuff. This was not us.
breaks my heart.
No,
Breaks
I know
my
it's
heart.
rough to watch.
I don't like it.
No, I don't either. No, but
Good. And BMAC Truck. How was working with Artie Lang? Do you remember Artie Lang? Who I
of
loved?
course, I love that. That was with Leslie Bibb.
Yep, Leslie Bibb.
Leslie Bibb. I loved her dress so much I went and bought one. Can you tell I was kind of obsessed with the clothes? No, Artie Lang, that was such a fun. And then, I'm being so nice to Artie, the character, and then Ari's jealous. I'm like, you don't have to be jealous, but that we had a lot of fun playing. I mean, for me, anytime I love Jeremy, and Jeremy, when you're listening to this, don't think I didn't love working with you and only you, but every now and again, when someone else came on, it was fun for me.
Yeah.
It was fun for me. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll figure that out. In the reboot, we're going to mix it up and bring as many people as we can. I don't know. Kevin Dillon's financing it, apparently. But, Perry, we love you. I don't know.
Thank
You
you.
This
got
was
anything
amazing.
else?
Thank you
Oh
very
my
much
God.
for coming
I'm sorry
on.
it took so long.
That's okay.
COVID
That's
sucked.
all right. It's only a year. I mean,
COVID,
maybe
was it a year?
Everybody, check out Perry's new show, Paradise City, on
Right.
Amazon Prime.
And at Perry Reeves. Easy enough. Let's build the Instagram following.
Oh my God!
So
I have
your
I
new
think I have like
producers.
40,000 followers. I mean,
But that's a lot of followers.
No, I'm the
Doug
worst.
would kill.
I have not. My phone fell in the toilet in December. as
Okay.
you know they do sometimes. And I didn't get another phone for 3 weeks. And Aaron, my husband, was like, "You just seem to be in such a great mood, and you seem so happy." Because it's been a rough year. Let's get real.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we kind of put the phone with that. So I just stopped looking at news and I stopped looking at Instagram and I took a break.
By the way, you're
and,
smart.
And guess what? I haven't really looked at Instagram. I did yesterday for the first time since December. And I think I
smart.
can ease back in. It was so much. It was too much. And I
You
just,
know what? You're working on a show. When you're not like me, you gotta like try to connect on Instagram. So that's what we do over here at Action Park
some people
Media.
are really good at it. I'm not like I said. I'm like I don't. I remember
It's
when
hard
Twitter
for
came
me,
out. I'm like,
yeah.
who cares what I'm shopping at the grocery store for? Really? But people do care. So
They care. Listen, for people out there, unfortunately, it's part of the business now. Perry, you're lucky. You've worked and done so much great stuff, and you're continuing to work, so that's
all right.
good.
So
but-
everyone listening, follow me, and I will go back on Instagram.
At Perry Reeves. Very simple.
thank you.
give
Well,
her
I can
some-
just-
Easy
do
follow.
you know
Give her
what?
some
I can
love
just
so
start-
she
I
wants
can
to
just
be
start
honest.
doing, putting up some more entourage stuff. I mean,
There
I
you
do have
go.
lots of old photos.
Victory
and
the
everything.
podcast
Make
stuff.
sure you
Victory
tag
the
it. Doug
podcast
will have
stuff.
a heart attack.
Can we
if I
do
take
some
the podcast.
pictures?
Yes,
you know?
we're
All
going to
right,
get a nice
okay.
picture right after this. Perry, we love you for coming in. This
Thank
was
you so
fun.
much.
We'll
Thank
do
you.
it again. And I don't.
Yeah.
well,
That's it.
That
Yeah,
wraps
Yeah, I
it
the
hear
up.
Emmanuel
podcast.
is like a regular, so I don't want to,
Anytime you want back in, you're in.
It's
Okay,
going to
thank
be
you.
impossible to pull off, but we want to do the women of Entourage. We want to get you, Carla,
Yeah,
Constance,
yeah,
and
it
Emmanuel.
would be fun.
Fucking awesome.
Carla's coming in soon. Maybe we try.
We'll see. All right. That's it.
good.
Victory the
Victory the
podcast.
podcast. Follow
Yay.
Perry Reeves and
Victory.